Why Albania?
Because.
Well, they have to have something we want.
Well, I'm sure they do.
What do we have that they want?
A little freedom.
Well, why would they want that?
Oppressed?
No. Fuck freedom. They wanna destroy the godless Satan of the United. They want to destroy our way of life, all right? Okay. The president is in China. He is dealing with the dispatch of the B-3 bomber to Albania. Why?
Well,
Why? Help me.
well, I mean,
Well, all right. Let's see. Geopolitically, if you...
We just found out they have the bomb. We just found out they have the bomb.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
Are a toy!
Yeah, baby!
Here is the path to the dark side.
You are here for me to enlighten you.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
And one time, at band camp...
I see dead people.
First rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club.
if I don't make it out of here, don't put me down for mummification.
But I don't want your life.
Hello.
I hate the way you talk to me and the way you cut your hair. I'm also just a girl standing in front of a boy.
I know Kung Fu.
Welcome to 1999, the podcast. I'm John Brooks.
And I'm Julia Sermons.
And we're doing another See Also this week related to some of the recent movies that we have discussed in some interesting ways. This week, we're looking at the 57th highest grossing movie of 1997 and the 46th highest grossing movie of 1998. Released limited on Christmas Day, 1997, and wide on January the 4th, 1998, where it finished fourth behind Titanic, Good Will Hunting, and As Good as It Gets. Quite a time in the movies. It went on to gross $64 million on a $15 million budget, largely through word of mouth. Directed by Baltimore Barry Levinson and written by Hilary, Henkin and David Mamet, based on the novel American Hero by Larry Beinhardt, and starring Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, Anne Heche, Denis Leary, Woody Harrelson, Willie Nelson, Kirsten Dunst, Andrea Martin, a great Michael Higgins, Suzanne Cryer, Hollywood's most famous Albanian Jim Belushi, and William H. Macy. Today we are talking about Wag the Dog.
There's a crisis in the White House.
What's the crisis?
And the president's top advisors have been called together.
Oh, jeez.
The sexual misconduct occurred inside the Oval Office. With the election only days away, how much will this scandal affect the outcome?
Now, Washington's top spin doctor
We can distract the press for 11 days till the election. I think we got a chance.
has an idea,
We can't afford a war.
You're gonna have the appearance of a war.
but he can't pull it off without Hollywood's top producer.
You want me to produce your war?
We need a theme, a song, some visuals. We need, it's a pageant.
New Line Cinema presents
The president's gonna go to war with Albania in about 30 minutes.
Albania's hard to ride.
These are chips.
We need it for the arm position on the string. It'll be a kitten. We'll punch it in later, right?
all the effects of real war
Okay, put the village behind her.
Give me some sound of screaming.
without the casualties.
America has seldom witnessed a more poignant picture of
They used the same process with the last Schwarzenegger movie.
You're the man.
Albania.
That rhymes.
From Academy Award-winning director Barry Levinson,
Let's keep working, people.
Academy Award winner Dustin Hoffman,
This is politics at its finest.
Academy Award winner Robert De Niro,
When this goes national, I get to put it on my resume.
Actually, no.
What could they do to me?
They come home to your house and kill you.
Wag the Dog.
When the fit hits the shan, somebody's gonna have to stay after school.
So, Julia, what is Wag the Dog about?
It is 11 days before a presidential election. The incumbent president is caught in a sex scandal involving a young girl. Renowned spin doctor Conrad Breen, played by Robert De Niro, is brought in to manage the crisis. He hatches on an audacious plan to divert the country's attention, manufacturing a war. Breen enlists Hollywood producer Stanley Motz, played by Dustin Hoffman, to help him fabricate an entirely fictional conflict with Albania. Why Albania? Because nobody knows anything about Albania, so no one will ask too many questions. Along with White House aide Winifred Ames, played by Anne Heche, they cook up fake news footage, a theme song, and an entire media narrative around this made-up war. The credulous press corps laps it up. Just when it seems like their scheme is working, the CIA gets wind of what's happening and announces that the Albanian conflict has been resolved, threatening to pull the rug out from under the whole operation. Undeterred, Breen and Moss pivot, inventing a new wrinkle, a heroic American soldier, Sergeant William Schumann, who has been left behind enemy lines and must be brought home.
Old shoe.
To drum up public sympathy, they play songs, slogans, and imagery in the media and watch as what appears to be a spontaneous groundswell of support for the forgotten soldier sweeps the nation. The only problem is that the real Schumann, played by Woody Harrelson, turns out to be a dangerous and unpredictable criminal. Motz manages to contain the damage, but he grows increasingly resentful that he can never take credit for his greatest production. When he starts making noise about going public, Breen has him killed. The president wins re-election. Manufactured reality turns into actual reality when a news broadcast tells of an Albanian terrorist attack. It signals that the fake war may be becoming real.
I didn't know until watching the movie this time that the Belushis actually are Albanian. Like I thought that was a random gag, and I'm like, wait, are they really Albanian? And I looked it up, and they in fact are like very much Albanian. So that's quite funny.
I couldn't decide if it would be funnier if they were or if they weren't.
I like so. I got more to say, but like I like that they. It's a really great joke because they are, and nobody thinks that it's not a joke. You know what I mean? Like that's why it works so well. So I don't think anybody knows that about them. And so you're watching the movie and you're like, oh, this is a joke. They're just I don't know. It's a random joke about the Belushis, but it's double funny because they actually are Albanian and nobody suspects that. Like it's just it's a very well conceived gag. But I also love the way that Jim Belushi refers to himself as one of your race. Anyway, all right. Wag the Dog found itself on several year-end best of lists. It is certified fresh on Rotten Tomato with a score of 86 and a strong Metacritic score of 74. It was nominated for 3 Golden Globes, including Best Picture Comedy, Best Actor Hoffman, and Best Adapted Screenplay for Henkin and Mamet, along with 2 Oscars, one for Hoffman and the other for Screenplay. In a rave review in the Chicago Sun-Times, Roger Ebert gave the film 4 stars, writing, quote, Barry Levinson's Wag the Dog cites Grenada as an example of how easy it is to whip up patriotic frenzy, and how dubious the motives sometimes are. The movie is a satire that contains just enough realistic ballast to be teasingly plausible. Like Dr. Strangelove, it makes you laugh, and then it makes you wonder. Less ecstatic, but still positive reviews came from the likes of Rick Groen in Toronto's Globe and Mail, who wrote, quote, Wag the Dog is a cozy political satire, the warm and fuzzy kind that's always entertaining, yet never disturbing. But in Film Threat, Tom Meek wrote, quote, Dustin Hoffman seems to have become the quintessential actor for films where the satirical form is to expose the media as a manipulative tool. Following the very mediocre Mad City, where he played a reporter trying to jumpstart his sagging career by igniting a hostage situation, Hoffman rekindles his suave cynicism as a hotshot Hollywood producer who is called upon by Robert De Niro's omnipotent presidential spin doctor to squelch a potentially ugly public relations backlash on the eve of re-election. It turns out that the Prez just got caught in a Girl Scout's panties, and now with his popularity falling his shoe-in second term is in jeopardy. To divert the public's attention and to angle the president back into the White House, De Niro and Hoffman hatch a plot to stage a fake war with Albania. After all, politics is show business, but like Mad City, Wag the Dog is so close to the real thing that beyond a couple of hilarious zingers, its impact feels smug and minor. Hoffman's electric performance carries the film beyond its banal pretext, and Denis Leary and Woody Harrelson are a scream in cameos. Okay, so let's get into it. So this is one that you really wanted to do. Of course, we just did a movie with Woody Harrelson that has to do with, media manipulation and that sort of thing. We recently did Analyze This, where De Niro delves into comedy, and he's kind of like on the border of a comic performance in this movie. We'll talk about that. And also Jay Leno cameoing as himself in both Ed TV and Wag the Dog. And of course, Wag the Dog also features the queen of 1999 herself, Kirsten Dunst. So it's got a lot of 1999 vibes. And also it came out in Estonia in 1999. So it technically does actually fit into our oeuvre if we were doing this podcast for and in Estonia, but we're not. But anyway, this is something you wanted to talk about, so why don't you talk a little bit about it first?
Yeah. So this is I think I repeat this too often on this podcast, but this is an R-rated movie that I was allowed to go to.
Okay.
That I remember it seeming so deliciously adult and satirical at the time, and so I thought like, oh, for sure it's going to be a little bit lame, and like it is not. I had a total blast watching this, and between moments of being sick to my stomach because it's just so
Yeah.
so still applicable, you know, like it's there's a lot here that takes us into our present moment, but it's also just like a really fun movie in a almost kind of heist movie kind of way. So yeah, so I had a really fun time watching this.
I had a fun time too. It is not as good as my memory of it was. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think I saw it like, you know, when it came out, right? And really thought it was great. I was a big David Mamet fan at the time because I was like, you know, pretty close to having studied theater and that sort of thing. I am not a David Mamet fan anymore, though I will credit his screenplay for having a really restrained number of fucks in it for anything that Mamet has ever put a pen to. So there is that. Yeah, it's wild because I think part of the reason at the time it was such a phenomenon sort of out of nowhere was, of course, like it came out and was made before the Lewinsky scandal. I should call it the Clinton scandal involving Monica Lewinsky. Like, it's not her fucking scandal. And it's like obviously eerily predictive of it. And then, of course, like the lying us into the Iraq war a few years later, right? There's a lot of things that happened in the aftermath that like confirmed a lot about this movie that I think gave it a lot of like staying power. And of course, as you say, like even right now, as we have a ridiculous war in Iran that's like destroying the whole fucking world because someone's trying to distract from a sex scandal, you know, of course, these these ideas and themes never go away. I feel like at the time it didn't feel as like revolutionary to me now, and I noticed more of its flaws this time around because I think a lot of the reality of it has like settled into the ether, including the fact that like don't change horses midstream is like literally one of the things that Bush ran on in 2004 to like why you need to reelect him because they're in the middle of the Iraq war. Like that phrase was actually used in the campaign repeatedly, not like as an ad, but I was like, oh my God, they actually fucking said that all the time as to why you can't not reelect Bush because otherwise you're going to fuck the war up. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, like, I kind of categorize it now as like this really interesting, weirdly prophetic thing about the future and very well realized, obviously, in a way that I think maybe people didn't really understand at the time. And like now it's proven to be right. Plus being like more fun and funny and full of really good performances than necessarily like great. And I used to think of it as great, and I don't think of it as great anymore. But that's kind of my broad view.
Yeah, don't change horses in midstream is like the one thing I really remembered about this movie. That and the campaign ad with Maurice Chevalier singing "Thank Heaven for Little Girls."
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's like it's such a great example of like a shitty campaign ad, you know, like it's just kind of dumb enough.
Another great race today, Johnny. Who you gonna ride in the stakes?
Well, Eddie, like my daddy always used to say, and I live by it. Never change horses in midstream.
Never change horses. Sounds like a smart bet to me.
Yeah, always stick with a winner.
Keep America working. Don't change horses in midstream. On election day, re-elect the president.
And I think it's really great that what sets Dustin Hoffman off is the idea that after the president is reelected, that it was those ads that got him reelected instead of all this like amazing behind the scenes work that he did. Which also is kind of like a mirror to political punditry generally. Like they, the way pundits tend to like latch on to one thing, and often it's one TV ad or something as like what changed the game, which is like
Willie
not
Horton
necessarily true.
Yeah. Or sometimes it is. Like sometimes it is, right? Like or at least that is the sort of agreed upon perception, right? Like when we think about the Willie Horton ad, or you think about the way that the pundits in the last election said that the, he's for you, she's for they, them ad was like the thing that won Trump the election. Like it's not true, but like certainly there's some kind of core truth to that, right? That there's something about the way that they cynically, divided people over, gender essentialism and like transphobia that definitely is true. And like that ad was obviously like where it was placed and when it aired was like very strategic and effective. So yeah, I think like there is it kind of acknowledges, I think that the movie kind of acknowledges that there is like a little bit of truth to both sides of that. Like was the actual fake war even as effective as we think it was? Or like maybe people were more moved by the ad, right? It's kind of hard to know for sure.
Well, also, I mean, the way it reflects how our politics have changed is 11 days before the election, right? And they say that the president has a 17% lead.
Yeah.
And I was thinking just like in terms of our polarized time. So it's like, no way are you losing 17% in 11 days.
Yeah. Or ever getting it in the first,
in the first place. Yeah.
In the first place, right? That's not a thing. Yeah. And a lot of that really does kind of stick out. I actually, I'm going to get to it later, but I actually do think there's things about this movie that like feel deeply irresponsible to me now. But I'm going to stick with some of the good stuff first. And I totally agree with your point that you made earlier, that one of the things that's really clever about that, like really fine-tuned about this movie, is where all the fake ads and all the sort of, even like the Kirsten Dunst, like Albanian girl scene, like where it lives is right in a sweet spot between like being entirely plausible and just like a tiny bit ridiculous enough to be funny, right? Like the the song with all the celebrities, which sounds exactly like Voices That Care from the Iraq War. I was like, this is perfect. Like, and the lyrics are just absurd enough. The thing about like the border, like, and all that shit. I was like, it's just absurd enough to not be like so farcical that you lose it, right? But it's like funny. It's just like a tiny bit removed from reality enough that that's what makes it funny. Like even what's his name? Fucking Coach.
Craig T. Nelson.
Even his like ads and his appearances are like just right in that sweet spot of like almost plausible, but just slightly absurd to the point where it gives it some humor. And I feel like all the way across the board, whenever it's doing any of those things, even like, the Morse code on Woody Harrelson's shirt, the whatever it is, mom. What's the line in it?
I forget.
It's something mom, right? And that becomes a slogan as well. Like it's just insane enough to like be funny, but like so close to being entirely plausible. And it does maintain, I think, the sort of like level of satire bordering on reality like the entire way through the movie. And that's one of its really like great, I think, lasting strengths. Like so many other movies fuck that up. And so many other movies like just the songs don't sound right. They don't sound like they would exist in the real world. Like the ads don't seem like they would exist in the real world. Like this is just very, very close, right? And that's sort of what makes it hilarious.
Yeah, it made me think of the song recording scenes. Made me think actually of Nashville and the opening of Robert Altman's Nashville, where they're recording this like patriotic rah 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 kind of song, and like that was interesting to me because like Nashville is made in this very like obvious period of political turmoil, and like we I don't know, we're living at this like, and we're living it at the tail end of the 90s. We're living in like the end of history period still, really. And so like the idea that like this, what am I trying to say? Like that this presumes a kind of, I don't know what to say, like nothing's going wrong really before the sex scandal. Like there's not, we're kind of starting with a clean slate, and where like America's basically doing fine. And then this whole war just comes out of nowhere. And that like we're not, like that there's like kind of no underlying context for the political moment other than you don't change horses in midstream. Like there's no lay of the land in terms of what we're building off of when we build this war.
And that's one of my problems with the movie, that I found, I guess, like being more kind of analytical towards it this time around. I don't think I've seen it since I saw it the first time. I don't think I've seen this more than twice now. I might have seen it at some point in the movie, but I don't remember ever watching it like after seeing it in theaters. What bothered me, and like what I kept sort of like being a little bit let down by, is the lack of stakes, and like the way that what's happening on screen rarely feels like it's actually connecting to something that's going on outside, right? Like I don't really feel like an actual world beyond what they are actually doing. And so as the movie kind of drags on, at a certain point, like there's nothing, no momentum is really built up. It's just sort of like one problem after the other. And I know that's kind of part of its sort of like farcical nature. It is really kind of written as a play. It is Mamet, right? And it really does feel like it could be performed on stage, because it's that kind of, focused around like just these characters in this room, in this situation, and very little externally. But I felt that I wanted a better sense of exactly what you're talking about. Like I wanted more context, and I know it's a deliberate choice, but it just feels like there's something that I stop caring at a certain point along the way, and start just kind of being annoyed by these characters.
Really? I love them all so much.
They're terrible. Like,
but
Sarah's character's awful, and Dustin Hoffman only ever talks about not winning Oscars, and like it's
Oh, you don't have a soft spot in your heart for him?
I do, because it's Robert Evans, and it's like like that's who he's playing, and it's a great character, and it's very funny, and like I get the sort of person that he's referencing, and there's like a little bit of mockery, right, that is sort of like tongue-in-cheek about the whole performance. And yes, certainly he's like the character I like the most, but he's ultimately like a fucking terrible person, as I think basically all of them are.
Yeah, I mean they're all terrible, but they're our gang, they're like
they're our
crew.
Like,
yeah, well it's like I said, it's like a heist movie. It's like our gang is getting together, and we're getting all the moving parts working, and we're going through the process of this big deception. And like that part of it is really, it's actually really fun to see them pull it together in a kind of like like cynical, amoral way, but it's still, for me at least, cynical and amoral does not preclude pleasurable. And like to your point about like the public not really existing, like I think this is I think I think I agree with you that like there's maybe a better version of this movie where the people or like the stakes on the ground are more part of it. But I think like the fact that this totally happens in a vacuum and the people actually don't matter at all, and like the people don't exist outside being the consumers of the images, and like that's all they are. And that's the only way you need to talk to them is I think is part of the nastiness that gives it a little bite. And that and like maybe that bite is like what feels the most relevant now.
Yeah, I think that's right. I just like I'm not disagreeing with the choice that you're alluding to. I think that that's fine, and I support it. And I think it works for the movie. I guess what I'm saying is like I just think that was not as well executed as I would want it to be, because I do think that they're just like there needs to be a little bit more, not like making reference to the people, but just sort of acknowledging that there's a world that they are manipulating outside of what they're doing. It's almost like a bank heist where you never show the bank, right? Like I need some like establishing shots of the bank so that I know like what it is that they're actually trying to pull, right? And I think that is it's again it's like reverting to Mamet's instincts as a stage writer, right? And witty dialogue and like, you know, telling the story through conversation, and that works really, really well. But I just think that there's like, again, by the time I get to like the third act, I'm just sort of like a little worn down by the sort of fruitlessness of this particular heist. But I understand why it is the way that it is, and I understand that it's like it's a choice and not a fault.
Yeah, I'm still on board with it. Well, where Dustin Hoffman is like chasing Woody Harrelson across a gas station, and you know,
yeah,
like
it's very good.
Middle America, which again, like nobody really cares about, right? Like in the movie.
Yeah, that's true. Right, it's never even acknowledged. Yeah, like some guy murdered him.
Yeah, and I love the fact that he's like they're all freaking out that they have this like homicidal maniac they have to deal with. And he's just like, oh, this is nothing. This is nothing. It's like it's kind of a cheap joke on the superficial level to say like, oh, those actors, those crazy Hollywood actors, you know, you should see them compared to this nun raper. So it could be kind of like a cheap joke, but I think he delivers it very well, and he has like this ultimate confidence that he can turn this situation around. It's like I was still on board at that point. I just like I think this movie is like 90 minutes, and it moves at such a nice brisk clip, which is part of the fun of it, and it packs like so much more into it than TV does as a piece of media criticism for like 2 hours. Like there's so much more. I mean, it's maybe not a fair comparison because they're very different movies, but like just the kind of like speed and light-footedness of it, you know, really is really, really kind of appealing to me. And like it was like I just kind of could appreciate it as a really fun ride that then ends very sadly, because I did, as when I watched it as a teen, like I felt very sad about Dustin Hoffman's death, and I still do now, actually.
Even though we know Dustin Hoffman is an asshole now, like abusive.
No, I think it was pretty easy for me to divorce myself from that, to be totally honest, because the character has this like wonderful warmth and softness about him, and this pure pleasure he takes in what he's doing, and how much fun he's having doing it.
It's a great character, like no doubt about it. It's very well,
and like it is obviously inspired a lot by Robert Evans, and I think Robert Evans said Oh, I was wonderful in that movie.
Yeah, he did. He did.
But it's not just a series of tics and mannerisms. You know, it comes together as a whole person.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think De Niro does great in a role that's like a little weird for him. Or just maybe wardrobe that's a little weird for him. I'm not sure.
Is the hat?
Yeah.
You like the hat?
Yeah, but I mean, like, he's great, but I think like Hoffman, right, is obviously the heart of the movie, and he's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely is playing, like, one of the reasons why, you know, we talked about De Niro's shift to comedy and didn't like cite this movie as where that happens, right? Because he really is playing this almost like a drama. He is the like straight man to Dustin Hoffman's, you know, like wacky character, right? And all the humor that he gets is because he's playing it almost entirely straight. Aside from some moments where he like does delve into levity. It's very funny. It's a funny performance because of like what's happening around him and like the way that, right, he is this sort of almost pretty typical De Niro-ish character, honestly, right? But if he weren't a good comic actor, then I don't think it would have worked, because you have to know that you're like doing comedy by playing the straight man, right? But it's not comedy in the way that like Analyze This is comedy, where he's you know, all in on being a sort of caricature of a mafioso. But certainly, like, it's, you know, you could watch this movie and get a sense of like how good he would be in comedic roles. But most of what makes his role funny is the way that like Hoffman is like prodding him, like, you know, feeding off that energy. And I love, like, you know, you're right, it's not all tics and just like witticisms, but I love those too about Hoffman's performance. Like everything about it, when he goes into like the weird like neuroses and like talking to himself and all of that sort of thing, like it's all, I feel like some of it must have been improvised, right? But like, yeah, like top to bottom, I think it's one of Dustin Hoffman's best performances. I've forgotten that he was nominated for an Academy Award for lead actor for this movie, but I'm not surprised. Like it is a really great performance. It's like it's rare that you will see the Academy nominate someone for, you know, a straight comedy performance, but unless that person's Dustin Hoffman, I guess. Though having said that, he lost to Jack Nicholson in As Good as It Gets, so, which is also a pretty straight comedic performance as well.
Yeah, De Niro, I think it works because he is kind of like, there is a way in which the fixer is like a gangster, you know, and him dealing out the kind of like tough love and the acerbic Mamet kind of dialogue, and him being like, hey, look, this is just the way it is. This is what we're going to have to do. You know, get on board.
Yeah.
Or else. Like, I think that aspect of his persona works really well, even though it doesn't seem like a natural fit for this type of setting. I just found the bow tie and the hat very weird on Robert De Niro.
That's got to be based on somebody real too, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I don't know.
I don't know who it was. I was like, you know, Carville didn't dress like that.
No, he didn't. But Carville definitely did have like a certain like weird look. You know, like he definitely had a style that was weird. And then I think like, yeah, there's a bunch of people that in that, you know, like Frank Luntz, right? Who like always wears sneakers and like that's his thing. Like he'll wear like formal attire, but also sneakers, right? I just think that there's some probably like consistency among people in that kind of a role, where a quirky, weird look is just kind of part of the expectation of, there might be like some psychology behind that as well. I don't even really know, but
Yeah, and I don't know if it's even all that weird, or if it just looks very weird on De Niro.
Maybe. I mean, it's kind of weird. Like, it's not like what most people dress as in 1997, right? Like, it is. It definitely is a little bit weird. Anne Heche I like a lot in this movie too. Weirdly enough, we talked about her then girlfriend last movie. Someone who was, her career was kind of a tragedy, but she put in some really great performances, like in her time on Earth. And this is, I think, one of the ones I really overlooked, I think, the first time. But her comedy is actually like quite good. And the way that she sort of acts as this figure who's like in the middle of it, but on the outside at the same time.
Yeah.
like she's not really quite sure like how involved she wants to be. And she keeps kind of going in and out. And like, there's a lot of really good humor there, and she understands that role really, really nicely and plays it really well.
Yeah, and she's like, everything with her's got to be, her dialogue and her scenes have to be like sharp and quick and really fast, and she does that really well.
Mm-hmm. And the one that, like I mentioned this in the intro, the person who I think makes the most out of a very limited amount of a role is John Michael Higgins, who is like the best portrayal of a White House press secretary that has ever been put to film. He absolutely nails, and like everybody who tries to play a White House press secretary in movies is always does it wrong. Like his mannerisms, his like cadence, the way he like looks at the camera and like leans in, the hesitations that he makes, like where he puts his ums and uhs, it is immaculate. Like I completely buy him as a press secretary, but then it's also just a tiny bit of comedy in exactly the same way that like all of the campaign ads that we talked about before are, right? Like it's entirely believable because he's doing exactly what press secretaries do, but it's also funny at the same time. And that's a pretty like, I'd forgotten he was in this as well. Like this was not a performance that was stuck in my mind from first viewing, and but I turned it on and I was like, oh my God, it's John Michael Higgins. And it's a fantastic, very, very small, but fantastic and essential performance.
Yeah.
I think it's like my favorite part of the movie.
And a subtler performance for him, but still very funny.
Yeah, because he's one of Christopher Guest's guys, right?
Yeah.
He tends to be like very broad in his comedy, but it is, he's doing the kind of like George Stephanopoulos impersonation there, right? But like every press secretary since then, that is how they talk. That is literally like the way that they deliver information to the media, and it's an incredibly like well realized interpretation of that role.
I mean, we talk about great casts all the time, and how much we appreciate actors in small roles in movies. But like when I was watching this and the opening credits came on, and I forgot, I basically forgot most of the movie, and like to see like, oh, we're gonna get Andrea Martin.
Andrea Martin and Denis Leary. Yeah. And Suzanne Cryer and Susie Blackson, and like it's David Koechner's in it. Harlan Williams, William H. Macy. Yeah, it's nuts.
So it was a real treat on that level too.
Definitely, and one of my favorite parts of, like, I think my favorite scene in the movie is when they're talking about voting.
I was going to bring this up. Yeah.
Just because like everybody is so like all the timing in that scene between Andrea Martin and Dustin Hoffman and Denis Leary is just so perfect.
Would you vote for that person based on that commercial?
You know I don't vote.
Why don't you vote?
Last time I voted that one time, Major League Baseball, when they started the fans voting thing, and I voted for Boo Powell for first base. He didn't get in, and it just disappointed me. It stayed with me. It's futile. That was it.
You've never voted for president?
No. Do you vote?
No. I always vote for the Academy Awards, but I never win.
Liz, do you vote? Do you vote?
No, I don't vote, no. I don't like the rooms. Too claustrophobic. I can't vote in small places.
Because like the dialogue isn't very funny, and you have to make it funny, right? But they make it funny by like the being just bluntly hypocritical and absurd. These people who are like working on this political thing, talking about why they don't vote, and then being surprised when the other ones don't vote, even though they don't vote. Although Hoffman's like, well, I vote in the Academy every year.
Yeah, and it's so, that was one of the scenes I had flagged as like so relevant to our times.
Yes.
You know, having these very high powered educated people who just don't vote because you know, they're all the same, or, you know, what does it have to do with my life, or like whatever.
And Andrea Martin, it's because she doesn't like the room.
That she can't be in the cramped space of the voting booth. Yeah, so it felt like so on brand for a certain class of people in our political public life these days that that's like one of the moments where it's like, oh God, this is holding up.
One of the things that makes me really, I feel kind of icky about this movie is that I kept thinking about Alex Jones talking about like predictive programming, right? You know, this whole like thing within the conspiracy space about how like the globalists will tell us what their plan is in advance by releasing movies that just say what they're doing, and you know how a lot of people, this is how they think things actually are, that the government really is this manipulative, and that the things that they see really are that fake. And I know that like it's taking on a very different kind of prescience in the, you know, era of like fake news and AI and that sort of thing. But one of the things about the 90s, and again, this is like pre-Clinton sex scandal and pre-Iraq war, right, is that you have this and you have the X-Files, and I think that there was a lot that was kind of breaking people's brains in terms of their distrust of the government, and the Waco and Ruby Ridge and everything else, right, that I don't think this movie handles responsibly. And I think that's kind of a problem, because it is true, of course, that like, you know, spin doctors exist, and like that, you know, politicians will try to manipulate the media narrative and all that sort of thing. But they don't actually do this. Like, they don't actually hire Hollywood producers to make a fake war so that they can win an election. But I feel like we now live in an era where most people kind of assume that they do. And that has led to, I think, a lot of the deterioration of trust in government and the kind of polarization and conspiracism that we see today. So like, that is what I think this movie gets kind of wrong in its attempt to be satire. That doesn't sit well with me at all.
I mean, it's like it embraces that, right? Because there's these ways in which, these moments in which he's like, did we fake the moon landing? Was JFK killed by a drunk driver?
Yeah, right, exactly right. Yeah.
And it's like totally tossing those away as a way, like, well, maybe we did, maybe we didn't.
Maybe we
Isn't
did.
that funny?
Right.
But yeah, like at the time, Joe Rogan was on news radio playing conspiracy theorist.
Exactly.
And like a lot of the bad conspiracy theory stuff we're dealing with now stems from the 90s. But I think like there is stuff that's like, to the extent that it's about fake images, even though it's about fake images in another kind of media landscape than what we're dealing with now, like I do think that's very that seems very relevant to me still. Like the scene where they're recording Kirsten Dunst's poor Albanian girl scene, and like the way like first of all, I love that they decide they're going to CGI a cat in later because they can't decide if it's going to be a cat or a kitten or maybe a dog, and nobody can agree. So like, oh, we'll just do it in post. And so she's running and crying in her little babushka and carrying a Tostitos bag.
Yeah, it's a great gag.
Such a funny little bit. But then when you see them shooting the scene, and they're in the like, editing bay or whatever, and they're looking at stuff, and they're like, oh, there's all these screens, and they're like, oh, should we have a bridge? Should we have a church?
Yeah.
What kind of kitten goes in there? And they're all just like, digitally manipulating the image.
Yeah.
Like that seemed to be, it's different technology, like that resonated with me in a kind of tummy aching kind of way.
Yeah, like for sure. I think there's ways that you can look at this movie now and see those things. I think that because of the way that the movie actually exists and its history, that it's been out since 1998, I don't think the average person would get that. I think what they would get out of it for the most part is like, oh yeah, the government lies to us all the time about everything, and they are and like, if they could do this in 1998, imagine what they could do in 2025. Is anything real? And then like, it's very quickly become like red pilled, right? That's what I think is sort of like, and I don't think it was irresponsible at the time necessarily. I think at the time it was kind of like funny and absurd. I think the idea, like, I don't really think the technology that they use in the Kirsten Dunst video like even existed then. I think even then it's kind of a fantasy. It's obviously incredibly easy for like a 12-year-old to do that now, right? But I don't think it was then. And so there's something kind of like, at the time, sort of like ridiculously farcical about it, that it would be so implausible to actually pull this off. But I don't think that has remained true over time. And now I worry about the impact that the sort of seeds that this movie planted in people's minds, what tree has grown from that is kind of what really disturbs me to think about.
So you're worried about the kids watching it today?
I'm worried about the kids. No, I'm not. I'm worried about the elder Xers who watched it at the time, and like, it was part of their journey to becoming, Joe Rogan fans, and or even like leftists who claim that the Trump assassination attempt was staged. Like, it's the same thing, right? It's that same sort of sense that like, they can stage anything. Look at Wag the Dog. You know what I mean? And I feel like this movie has kind of, I mean, even the term Wag the Dog like was popularized by this movie. And I feel like a lot of it has just kind of infected on both sides of the kind of political spectrum, like the way that we think about distrust of government. And I think that that's sort of really unfortunate. And some of the more, I think, relevant and prescient satirical elements of it probably would get overlooked because of that, which I think is a shame. Because it is good. It's a really good movie.
What are your favorite parts of this scheme? What were your favorite parts of the assembling the fake war? What are your favorite parts or scenes of that?
So I think the Kirsten Dunst thing and her role in this movie, where she's in it for maybe like 3 minutes, right, is so memorable and so well, like, it's so well realized. That the name of the actress is Stacy is perfect. That she is like it's Kirsten Dunst, who at the time was the sort of like blonde ingenue. And the way that she is like doing acting as she's playing this character of the runaway Albanian girl. It's all so, again, it's also like well put together and realized. And I, the one thing where I was like, well, how are they explaining where this footage came from? Which they never actually really address in the movie. But that's fine. But it's the music thing that I think is really the most effective, right? Where with Willie Nelson, and Willie Nelson, we didn't talk about this, but Willie Nelson is like so good in this movie. The scene where he was like, oh, I was just about to go out and get drunk. He's like, well, you got to write a song now.
Johnny?
Yeah, what is it?
The war is over. Okay? Now we're going to need a new song. I think it should be a song about a shoe, a shiny shoe, a black patent shoe, a good old shoe.
I was just on my way to getting drunk.
Yes, you get drunk, John, but I need a new song, okay? A good old shoe song. It should be a ballad of loss and you want to help me?
Redemption.
Loss and redemption is very, very good.
Oh, shit. What key do you want it in?
No, I don't know keys. Johnny, I got a lot of people here who are a little depressed because the war just ended. Please give me a new song.
Daddy had a hound dog. Used to call him Blue.
They go follow me around. Stay to me like glue.
And his favorite thing to play with used to be my good old shoe.
So you hit that 16.
Well, I wish I had a woman who was half as good and true.
Yeah, and the whole sort of idea of like inceptioning the old shoe song into people's minds, like I thought that was very clever. And like that also got me thinking about the way that we weaponize nostalgia. And I think that was sort of something that wasn't necessarily on people's minds in the 1990s as part of what drives kind of political polarization. But I think that was a really like pretty interesting and well done observation on the movie's part.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite bit too.
What, the songs?
Yeah, well, the whole old shoe scheme.
Yes, and just like the throwing shoes on trees. Just like it's interesting because it was like they're like doing virality before virality existed, right? Which is like that's pretty that's pretty stunning.
It requires more shoe leather than
if
you had to just have to do it on your phone.
Yeah.
Is there stuff around not the politics of the movie, but its kind of approach to politics that we want to flag as particularly interesting today?
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, like what really got me going and got me into the movie basically from the first moment is the fact that De Niro, like, he takes 5 seconds to think and then he's like, oh, there's a B-3 bomber. Don't tell anybody about the bomber. We don't want anyone to know about the bomber. And like that's his distraction that he's discovered, and he just starts throwing it around off the table, and everyone's like, but we don't have one, and he's like, exactly, nobody said we did, we definitely don't. And then like there's a moment when he's deciding on the war, and Heche says, what did Albania ever do to us? And he asked, well, what did they do for us? What did they ever do for us?
Yeah.
And that struck me as such like a Steve Bannon Trumpian way of like flipping things around and, dissembling and justifying horrible things.
The why Albania, why not line that felt especially like in this 2026 era of Iran felt especially just depressing. Right. I think what also is really, I don't know, I'm still kind of on the fence about how I feel this impacts the movie, and it might have something to do with my feeling that there's no kind of external world that it's dealing with, but it's an interesting choice the movie makes to actually not be political. Like, you're never really quite sure what party the president is of, right? Or like what party Craig T. Nelson is of either. And like partisan politics do not really play any role. It's almost like it doesn't matter who's running. Like, doesn't matter who wins either, right? The whole kind of end game is just to maintain power.
Right.
And that also felt very like, that feels very fresh and like something that didn't maybe even register so much in the 1990s, but definitely feels not for like politics matters to us, but like for the people on the inside, what matters is their jobs. And so who the fuck cares what party someone is or what their politics are. And I think that definitely has, lessons in it that are meaningful to us today.
Yeah, I mean, so like I definitely thought, like I totally agree that there's something important about you not really knowing. Um, I think I was leaning towards it being a Democratic president just because of Clinton and the accidental or non-accidental parallels.
Yeah.
But then when there's the plane crash,
Yeah.
And Heche calls Dustin Hoffman a liberal affirmative action shithead.
Yeah.
Right. Which made me think, so is the president Republican, or is she just kind of more conservative and just will work for whoever to get ahead?
Right. And it's that, like, that they drop that because you can't puzzle it out, right? Like there is no way of knowing exactly what that line means, or, it just sort of suggests that he has his own politics, but obviously he's going to work for whoever's going to pay him, right? That's sort of the bottom line.
Or this job is just too good and too challenging and interesting to turn down.
Right.
But I agree with you about the thing that the not knowing about the political parties, but like kind of having an idea, but like the not knowing is important. That made me think of like Veep and The Thick of It, and these like this maybe being an important precursor to those shows in terms of how that is dealt with, the uncertainty about that. But then also like visually, there's some Sorkin walk and talks, but there's just a lot of kind of like almost verite style stuff happening in the scenes where they're talking and planning in a way that made me think like, oh, I wouldn't necessarily have thought of this as a precursor to those shows, but it kind of seems like it might be.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's a lot of things. I mean, a lot of movies of the like 80s and 90s that maybe are precursors in some way to those shows. I think like Bulworth is another like great American satire of that era. Bob Roberts is like probably 10 years earlier, but that's another like really, insightful satire that I think you see some of its DNA in Iannucci's series as well. Yeah, and I kept watching this movie thinking about In the Loop, and being like, In the Loop is like a stronger political satire than this movie is, because this movie isn't really a political satire. I think that's like I think that's what we're kind of getting at, right? It's a satire. It's about kind of the world of politics, but it really is more about media manipulation and like cynicism than it is about politics. Whereas like In the Loop is very much a movie about politics, right? Like that is very much like what is on its mind and what it is satirizing. And same with Bulworth, right? It's a movie about like politics and race, and like in a way that this movie kind of isn't, which it's kind of, I don't know. So it was weird to kind of realize that.
I mean, I would say it's a satire of media in politics, and like images and media in politics, and how poisonous that can be, or how easily manipulable it can be. Like, there's a moment sort of toward the end when they're talking about TV, and Anne Heche says TV destroyed the electoral process, which seems like
that was that moment. I was like, oh girl, like my poor summer child. Yeah. And also, like, to your point, that it being a movie about, and I think that's the right way of saying it, like, media in politics, or something along those lines. Like, the fact that John Michael Higgins' character is the only one we really get to know, like, from the administration, like, really does kind of reinforce that idea. right? That the media liaison is the one person who we really have any sort of sense of who they are, like within the actual presidential administration, which then also like does suggest that it really has more things on its mind than political satire. Because like when I think of political satire, I think of like, again, you know, like Bob Roberts, or like even like Team America World Police, right? Like that is political satire, right? Because it is very much like it has politics on its mind, and it is like trying to satirize something about the state of American politics in like the early or the mid-aughts, right? And yeah, this isn't. This is about something I think bigger, and because we live in kind of a post-political world right now, maybe more meaningful than than those movies are. Because like I don't think Team America has any relevance anymore, right? Like we're so fucking past that you know, while it's a very funny movie, like it's not.
Yeah. Well, like, so there's a moment kind of early on where I guess Robert De Niro is trying to talk Dustin Hoffman into it, and he talks about they briefly flash on the screen the image of the picture from Vietnam about the girl, the naked girl, and the napalm.
Yep.
And then De Niro says, "You remember the picture 50 years from now, you've forgotten the war."
Mm-hmm.
Which I think, like, not to get too hoity-toity, but like it's kind of like what Susan Sontag says about photographs. Like you forget, you see the suffering, but you totally forget the context, and that's kind of ethically problematic. That like you have this relationship to the suffering of the person that is decontextualized and is therefore kind of useless.
Yeah, and I think that's it's a weird moment where the movie's kind of breaking the fourth wall a little bit and kind of attacking the audience, but like it's effective, like it works. That's a pretty like weirdly powerful moment in this otherwise very kind of bleak and cynical movie, because this is a very like this is a pitch black comedy. Like it is a dark and cynical movie on so many levels, but it's like bearable because of the levity that the cast brings to it, which again is like pretty miraculous that it pulls that off. I always try and like imagine movies with other casts, and I think if you just like cast good actors in this movie who aren't the ones who are in it, it would be a very sort of almost unwatchably cynical sort of a movie. But its cast is able to bring this like humanity to so many of the characters that it sort of redeems that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm too amoral of a person, but I mean, it has this you know, like I said, it has this like really fun get the gang together type of energy to it that like I kind of like vibe with it on that level. In a way that I like.
No, I vibe with it too, but I vibe with it because the gang that is assembled is like Dustin Hoffman and Robert De Niro,
right? Exactly.
And Denis Leary and Anne Heche, and like that's kind of my point. I'm going to make one more point before we go, and one more like gripe. There was, I don't know why they didn't do it. It feels like a perfect joke. Maybe it just felt too obvious, but when they're doing the like news report about Matz's death, or Matz's death, like how do you not have the reporter say that like the Academy will be honoring him with a posthumous Oscar like this year? Like how do you not complete that circle? That joke is right there for you. It would have, I don't know, it would have made it, but maybe it's even like funnier and bleaker that they don't say that. I don't know, but I just felt like that. I wanted that joke to happen so badly.
Do you have anything to say about the Mametness of it?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of alluded to it earlier, right? That like I feel like a lot of the structure of it is very stage playish, and that's very Mamet. And I am Very pleasantly surprised that not every other word is fuck, like it is with most of Mamet's work. There's a whole story about Mamet coming in and redoing the script and the credit for the screenwriter and all that sort of thing. I'm not going to get into that, but Mamet's an asshole and I hate him. And my hatred of him has made me reevaluate pretty much everything he's ever written. But this is good. This is a restrained Mamet where I think he's actually doing some of his best work. I think mostly because he's like adapting something that someone else already adapted. So like there was an initial screenwriter that was adapted from the book, and then he comes in and like readapts everything. And I don't think, adding profanity for every second word was an option for him to do so.
Yeah.
But it's sharp. I mean, like the dialogue is very Mamet sharp. So it works well for me.
Yeah, I feel like there's a sharpness to it, but there's kind of a lightness to it as well. That like keeps it from becoming too like, because it is an exploration of masculinity in many ways. But if it was like an illustration of masculinity with a capital M in the kind of traditional Mamet way, it would have been a disaster. So yeah, sure. I think like he found a way to work within the confines of the story.
Maybe like a handcuffed David Mamet is like who we should have had all along, and he would have produced even better work that wouldn't again require so much revision now that we know like what a monster he is. But fucking sucks. Talented daughter. I like his daughter. She's cool, but that's all right. We got anything else on this before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I would just say I don't think it's aged all that much, and I would highly recommend it. It's like
if you've never seen it, you should see it for sure. And I think it plays in a way now that is very different from when it did then, but like no less relevant. And in some cases, like again, when Anne Heche says television ruined my 12 months, just kind of you want to end your life right there and then. But don't. You could rent it for $4 from YouTube. Did you find anywhere else to get it? That's where I got it from.
I got it from Amazon, I think.
Okay. All right. It's not streaming for free anywhere, I don't think, but it's worth, if you're wondering whether or not you should spend $4 to rent it, you should, and it's worth $4. And again, a tight 90. So we'll be back soon. You can find us on Blue Sky, even though apparently it's dying. According to
is it?
Yeah, that's what everybody's talking about today. You can find us on Blue Sky. It's not really dying. You can find us on Blue Sky at John Brooks and Julia Sermons and 1999 the podcast. You can email us at 1999@cageclub.me. And until next time, God bless Albania. we will see you next time.
The right to be free. Now it's time to go.